9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Are you ready?
Welcome to Hard Way Wrestling. It is a Sunday, and we have a special exclusive story. And I mean, you could call it news if you want to, with Mike Radick. But before we get into that, gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning, good sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Sorry, my camera's moving all over the damn place.
That's okay. I like looking at your underneath your beard.
Yeah. No, we had to do this on the web this morning, on the webcam on my phone this morning because my computer decided not to cooperate. Which, yeah, fun times.
You know, it's funny though. The last time you were on here, your mic was a little lower, and I had to do some adjustment. This mic on here, much better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Big difference. So, before we get into our exclusive news, we're going to talk about you just got done a storyline with WDWA. Do you want to go into that a little bit? How that got started and where you ended up?
Oh well, I mean, I can tell you how it got started. I mean, obviously it's over now. Everybody knows I lost. WDWA is back in the hands of.
You didn't just lose, Mike. You got your ass kicked.
I did get my ass kicked. I did. Yeah. Well, we're not going to talk about that, Jason. But.
My bad.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. But no, I mean, backstory of the whole thing. I mean, really, I'd had a talk with Gavin Jackson. This was probably back in January, and originally I think it was like what started out as just a booking for Beastman. They were looking for another challenger for their championship, and Gavin was kind of thinking, hey, maybe we could do a little bit more with this, and I agreed.
Tell people who get not everybody knows who Gavin is because we are.
So Gavin, yeah, Gavin is he's one of the people that help run and operate that promotion. I mean, the owner of the promotion, I don't know how much you've heard, but the owner of the promotion up until December 9th was LT, and Gavin worked under him, kind of helped. Basically, he was doing the job that I was doing there in 2019. So he was handling, he was doing a little bit more. He was handling, a good bit of the booking and whatnot throughout the spring and the summer. So, I mean, me and Gavin got on the phone probably in February and talked about the whole thing. And I'm very willing to work with anybody. Like I said, I think a lot of people could benefit from an angle like this. The people working for the promotion, just the wrestling community as a whole could benefit because you have two promotions working together for a common goal. And the common goal was just to kind of increase crowds over the summer because summer's usually a couple of dead months for wrestling, especially in the late months. So, we're trying to increase our crowds. We both had the same common goal, and I felt like this was just a really good way to, go about it.
Yeah, no, we are in the middle of a program with a company out of Virginia called TCW. We're doing sort of the same thing. If we get an echo here, let me know, and I'll.
Yeah, you're fine.
I'll switch the headphones. Okay. I think, and you and I have never spoke about this kind of stuff. You and I haven't really spoke a lot at all. We just kind of running each other, sort of in the same circles. But I feel like it's great, and I think it's awesome that companies can work together to do this type of thing, share talent, share ideas, share stories, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
I think, and I haven't been around as long as you have, Mike. You've been around a million fucking years. I was a long time ago and never was on this end of it. But as time goes on, I see how other promotions act and how they treat their talent. And I say talent because honestly, they do stuff that I can't fucking do. I can't throw myself around like these guys do. And I'm sure that after Friday night, you were pretty sore. Probably not yet.
You have no idea.
Come Monday, buddy, when it matters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm feeling a little bit better today. Saturday, I'm going to tell you this right now. I didn't get out of bed until probably like 1 or 2 in the afternoon. I got out of bed, and then guess what? You got to go take the ring back to storage and do
Yeah.
all that stuff. So, yeah, had a couple of ring rentals this weekend. So, yeah, it's like you're getting beat up on Friday, and then Saturday you're kind of lugging around like a couple of tons of metal. So, yeah, you're feeling it. You're
Yeah.
definitely feeling it.
And just think if you're for those out there who aren't wrestlers, who just enjoy watching wrestling and maybe at one time probably thought it was fake or didn't think it was fake or whatever. Imagine doing that every weekend.
Oh,
Every weekend, sometimes 2, 3, 4 times a weekend, wrestling on a show, and then having to go to your shoot job on Monday, whether it be an office job or a construction job, you still got to go to work because that's where your money is. So imagine doing that. And that's when I say talent. That's why I say talent, because there are things these guys can do that I'll never be able to even, in my mind, can't even fathom doing. So, but I feel like, and again, you and I have never spoke about it, that we are on the same level as how we feel about how promotions should work together and for the betterment of wrestling in the area.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
and I say this all the time. Like, if there's one, like, and you know this from just and like, not even like, we've known each other for a long time, but I'm talking just from the last couple of years. The way I do business, the way I handle business with people. I try to come in. If somebody needs help, I'm there to help them every time. Yeah. I don't think there's not one person around here that can deny that. When somebody needs help, I'm there. And
I'll give everybody an example. I work for, I do most of my business for Atlantic Terror Championship Wrestling, Chucky Manson. Chucky is one of the toughest guys in the world to be friends with. Actually, I'm going to switch over here to headphones because I am getting a little bit of.
Yeah, let me. I'm going to set my phone down here because I can already see where. Hang tight here. Let me see if we can get this propped up. There we go.
There we go. Let me switch this over. You hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you all right.
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah, we'll get rid of some of that feedback, hopefully. So, as you know, I do a lot of business with Chucky Manson, Atlantic Terror Championship Wrestling. That's where I do most of my stuff. I help on many levels with you name it, I've done it, and I'm doing it. Chucky's very tough to deal with. He's very protective, which a lot of guys are with their promotions. Mike, you're protective with your
absolutely. You have to.
And LT Latin Tornado, was protective of his business. He still is protective of his business. That's why he gave it over to Gavin. I mean, I don't know Gavin personally, but I've heard good things about Gavin.
Oh, he's a stand-up guy. Just a stand-up guy.
But again, I do a lot of business with Chucky, and the other day I caught this comment when you were on that Mike Radick has helped me out in many, many different ways, and he's a stand-up guy. Now, for Chucky to say that about somebody out loud, like he says a lot of stuff to me behind closed doors, but for him to say that out loud means a lot. So, so when it comes down to it, I actually just went on a tangent there. I don't even know where I was going, but at the end of the day, yes, I think we're all on the same level when we want to have better talent, better shows, and we want to bring the people good wrestling.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of trash wrestling out there.
And it's like that's the thing too. We're like the two promoters you just mentioned. We're all in the same area promoting shows. We're all in Martinsburg. I know Chucky's starting to draw really well with his crowds over in Kearneysville, which is like literally it's right outside of the city. It's not far away. You've got LT. He's got a consistent draw down there. And me when I'm coming in during the summer. My crowd is my crowd. Like it's a consistent draw. But I want to say, like, for the most part, it's like 3 promotions down there working together and just trying to make more awareness or bring more awareness to the wrestling scene.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And again, there's a lot of great guys, and some of them cross over into each other's promotions, and some of them don't. There's a lot of guys in WDWA that doesn't come to us. There's a lot of guys in Vultures that doesn't come to us, and vice versa. So, and we just want to get out the best product possible. So, that being said, well, let's rewind a little bit. So your story with WDWA is over, not over? Because I saw the handshake.
Yeah, the storyline. I think we've all got out the issues we need to get out. As far like, I won't say you won't see me there in the future. I just say I know the storyline's kind of come to its conclusion. And WDWA's back to where they think it should be. I'm a little sore about the loss, but yeah, I mean, as I should be. But yeah, WDWA is back where it needs to be, and yeah, like I wish those guys luck down there, man. It's been a fun 8 to 10 months.
Yeah. And I followed the story pretty closely. So, and what we're learning here, Mike, you've had your hand in wrestling in the tri-state area here for a very long time. Like, how long have you been in wrestling here?
As far as just here in the area, I mean, now if we're talking Martinsburg, literally since the moment I promoted my first show in 2007, promoted the show in March of 2007, and have been running pretty. I hadn't ran as consistently as I'd like to in Martinsburg, but I've ran down there quite frequently.
Why is that? Why is that, Mike? Why don't you run as
well? And I'll be honest with you. My first time around, and I don't like to admit this. My first time around, when I did this in 2007, I was in over my head. Oh
man!
If you knew what we ran, that first promotion I worked with, that was Acclaimed Wrestling Entity. What we ran it with, and what ended up happening at the end, like it was going to happen. We were in over our head. We had there was a lot of sharks in the water back then, because I mean these were the days like John Rambo was still around, and you had I think there was like maybe one other promotion in the area.
What was it? It was NWL, right? It was
NWL.
So there was
back John in the day. Rambo. There was
there a Rampage or Primal was that around too?
It was Rambo. It was Primal Conflict Wrestling, and then there was a promotion that ran in a bar called All Premier Wrestling that was around. And yeah, I mean that was a long time ago, but yeah, right as soon as I started running, I remember why I started running. I was trying to basically get some respect from some of these promoters that I would be giving advice to. So I'll give you a good example. I was working for promotion in Pennsylvania, not too far from Martinsburg, so it was like right on the border. And I remember giving them advice all through 2006, because they went from they had a 300-person crowd, they went to a 700-person crowd, and then they went down to 40 people.
Can you say who that was?
I mean, I could it was Southern Wrestling Association.
Oh,
and
okay.
This was a long time ago.
SWA.
Yeah, so this was a long time ago. They've got good leadership in place right now. TJ Sykes is doing a wonderful job of the promotion.
I just went to a show, Frosty's Rob Wells's Hall of Fame
induction. Yeah,
just went to that. I actually thought it was a smaller crowd. I want to say there's probably 80 people there, maybe, give or take. And it was a nice little intimate crowd. It was real kind of a little tight in there. But I thought it was actually pretty good. Not bad.
Yeah, no, it wasn't bad at all. Their shows are really, really good. It's just, when you're up in that area, you got a lot of people coming in from out of town working for them. So it's a little harder to spread the word when the people aren't there locally. Like the people that are actually on the show locally. When you don't have those local talents there, it's a little harder to promote. But I mean, still, they're doing a good job. Like I always heard in wrestling, you should book for 75 people. Like you should book and plan for 75 people. If you get more, great. You should always strive to get more. But in essence, like your average indie crowd is going to be about 75 to 100 people.
Sure.
So that's what you should be booking for. And they obviously, especially the last couple of months, they've really done a good job up there. But back to what we were saying, I had started, I was up there, I was trying to give them advice back in 2006. The guys that were in charge at the time, they were just like, this guy's too young to know what he's talking about, because I'd only been in 2 years at that point. And me and my friend Mark Brown decided, hey, we're going to go promote an event. of our own, and we're going to make this, we're going to try to make this the biggest and best event it could be. And the first one went really well. The second, third, and the second one, the third one, and the fourth one, not so much.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, a lot of reasons for that, but a big thing is we were really playing over in we were really in over in our head. We didn't understand at the time how crowds were during the summer and the fall, and the early fall, I should say.
Yeah.
So we didn't really plan for that, and we took a bath there towards the end, so it blew up in our face.
Well, you live, you learn. In this business, I think, even though I think the mold is there on how to make money or the attempt to make money in wrestling, I think you try new things all the time to see if you can get more eyes, more faces in the building and that kind of stuff. So, and that seems to be where you were at the time. Just trying to figure it out. That's kind of how it works.
Trying to figure it out. I want to say like right after that, because we'd met a couple of people that ended up being very important, like later on during my time of promoting and even really getting an opportunity to learn about promoting. I had met a couple of guys while I was working there that ended up booking me Ruckus for the very first show. So I ended up getting access to Ruckus on this first show because these guys, and it was Jimmy Dream and Adam Ugly, James Ellsworth and Adam Ugly, they were working at the time as Pretty Ugly. Yeah.
Which was which?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I'll say this, like they were at the time, they were just getting started. Over the next couple of years, they were like a really important tag team around here because like there wasn't a lot of like set tag teams around here, and they kind of came in and just did tag team wrestling everywhere they went. So they'd go to Uniontown and do that, and they took some kids up there and really got the most out of them. I used them when I started my second promotion, Fight. Used them a lot, and they always came in and provided good tag team matchups. And after that, that's I'd bring them in, and then they kind of brought me into promotions that they were helping out. So like I got started in Adrenaline Wrestling there early on. Like I want to say 2009.
So you have Mike. So you developed sort of a relationship with James Ellsworth.
Yeah. So I developed we had a pretty good rapport. I developed developed a pretty decent relationship with him, and started there as a ring announcer, and eventually my wheels start getting turning, and I was like, you guys aren't selling tickets online. Why aren't you doing that? You're right outside of a major city. Why aren't we selling tickets online? And the excuse I got was kind of like, well, people aren't as smart as you, Radick. People aren't going to go buy tickets online. They buy on the phone. That's how it's always been done. That's how it's always going to be. My thing was, well, MCW is selling tickets online. Why aren't we? All the major promotions are selling tickets online. We're in a major city. We should really try to make this available. And eventually, I just kind of had to take it upon myself and set it up for them.
Yeah.
And kind of, yeah. So
yeah, I feel you because I had the same. I don't want to say ATCW was a little bit behind the times, but they were probably 15 years behind everyone else when it comes to a lot of things. And one thing we discussed was online ticket sales. And the whole basis about online ticket sales is to get the money in, right? Get the money beforehand. It also makes them commit to either coming, and if they don't come, they lose the money. So most likely people are going to come to the wrestling show. It's one thing to say you're going to come, and I think the business back in the day was, hey, can you reserve me 4 front row seats? Can you reserve me this? Can you reserve me that? And by the time you reserve 40 front row seats and 10 of them show up, you're shit out of luck.
One of the first things I do when coming in to help a promotion is I'm like, literally forget about the reservation system completely, because it like that reservation system cripples so many promotions because they're expecting this big crowd, and then sometimes they show up. Most of the time they'll show up, but there's always that one time where it's like, nope, we're not coming. Yeah, it just all depends on what's going on around the area. Like the last minute, there could be some kind of public event that somebody's running. That's
it doesn't. We had it. We don't have it anymore because ATCW reserves 0 tickets now.
Yeah.
It is first come first serve or pre-purchase tickets, and we've had people say, "Hey, I'm bringing my family. I need 10." We've actually had wrestlers say, "I need 10 front row seats. I'm bringing the whole family to watch me, blah, 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 blah." And then they bring 2. Right.
Yeah.
So it happens. I mean, this is a tough business to make money in anyway at times. So I'm with you on the pre-purchase of tickets, but go ahead.
Oh yeah. So, at first, I think we were only doing like $300 or $400 online, which in Baltimore, that's not really much, but over about a year, it became of an afterthought to like, hey, are you getting those online tickets going? Hey, when are we getting the online tickets going? And it's just like, oh, now you need it.
Yeah.
But now you need it. It's there might have been a little bit of a theory to that, but after a while, like I worked there, built the online ticketing platform.
Now, what company was this? This was
Adrenaline Wrestling.
This was Adrenaline. Okay.
Yeah.
Adrenaline.
So meanwhile, I'm also running Fight, and Fight wasn't really going as well as I thought it was going to go. So I shut it down for about a year, and then we restarted. I want to say it was like 2016. So we're about 3 or 4 years into the relationship now.
Okay. So how at this point, you and James, you've let's rewind here a little bit. You've created you started as a ring announcer. You've gotten a relationship with James Ellsworth. Was this before Ellsworth hit WWE? This was before.
Oh yeah.
Okay, way before that. So
yeah, we'll get into.
Yeah, how was he to deal with it this time when he was with Adrenaline and you were first you had this good relationship with him?
Personally, those first couple of years, I had no problems with him. Like we were friends. We were good friends. Like, I mean, we'd be talking on the phone daily or weekly at this point in time. Well, one of the things, like me and him are both big baseball fans, so we talk about that a lot. And like I'd help him out wherever he needed because at the time I believed in the product. Like it was a good place to work. It was one of those places where you get names every once in a while, but you get like a lot of the super indie guys that would come down. I ended up getting work with other promotions from ring announcing there because of the stuff that I did with Adrenaline. So it was good for that. But after a while, like you start taking more and more responsibility. And
well, good. I'm glad you brought that up because I was curious. You start out with a ring announcer. Where did that go? Because it seems like it just kind of progressively you became more of a hands-on person with Adrenaline.
Well, yeah, no, it started with the ring announcing, and it was like the online ticketing where I was like kind of volunteering to do that for him. And if anybody knows Ellsworth, he's not very technologically savvy. So that's it. Kind of benefits you having a guy like me around. But we start getting deeper in a relationship. I'm saying this is probably like 2014, and it's getting to the point where it's just like I'm getting paid $20 and I'm doing all this work. I was like, is there any way I can get more money? And yeah, he ain't coughing up more money.
Okay.
Yeah, so it got to the point where I was about to quit in 2014, and then we talked, and I was like, look, you don't understand how much work this actually takes. Like, I'm dedicating hours of time to this. So once I started explaining to him that way, a little bit more money came. But
now, was Adrenaline making money?
At the time, not the money that they're making now. I'm pretty sure, after it was all said and done, he may have only been making like $500 or $600 for himself after the shows.
Gotcha.
Like after paying for everybody. So, and some people get paid, some people wouldn't, and I got that. Like it's not like I'm sitting there like saying, hey, I know, like I knew how tight money was. I wasn't asking for an exorbitant amount of money, but just like a little bit more money.
Sure. If the guy's bringing in $600, basically on the back of the guy who's doing all the promoting and all the back end stuff, You would think there'd be, throw me an extra 50. Ain't gonna hurt.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's never going to be worth the money. It's never, whatever you do in this business is never going to be worth.
Oh, I know. It's a labor of love.
Yes, absolutely. Labor of love.
It's a labor of love. And I get that. And we had our talk, everything kind of got smoothed over. And I also knew what he was dealing with at the time because, we had a promoter at the time that, I'm not going to mention his name, but we had a promoter at the time he's basically the gatekeeper for promoting wrestling in Maryland at the time. And he was promoting, he was, renting a license to us, renting a license to ACW, renting a license to MCW. He basically controlled the area.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Guy almost got in a little bit of legal trouble. And when that happened, it kind of changed everything because Jimmy ended up getting his own license. And when he did, one of the first places he wanted to run was Hagerstown. So
okay.
I run Hagerstown. I didn't run Hagerstown at the time, but I always wanted to run Hagerstown because I live here.
Yeah.
One of the deals that we had when I started helping him out and bring his shows to Hagerstown is hey, I'll help you out in any way that I can. However, if I help you out, I want something out of this too. And it doesn't have to be money, but I want access to the license 2 times a year to run shows in Hagerstown for Fight. And at the time, it was agreed to. Right around the same time, he went to WWE too, so that probably had a lot to do with it as well because he wasn't going to be around as much. I think we started promoting shows specifically on the Eastern Shore. But that was the deal that was agreed to, and it was basically adhered to up until about the pandemic.
Okay. So you were still doing Fight. You were still working with Adrenaline Championship Wrestling. At what point did you leave Adrenaline?
Well, I didn't leave until November of last year.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was still helping out, still doing whatever I could for him. But November of last year is when I left, and the reason I left last year, and we'll get to the other stuff here in a bit, but the reason I left last year, a lot of people don't know, I was working a job where I was working live events all over the country. So you may have known this, but
actually, you left. You were in Cali, right? Didn't you move to California for a little bit? Or
I didn't move to California. I just kept getting shipped out to California.
Okay, it seemed like you were living out there.
Yeah, I basically was. I mean, if I counted the days I spent in California, I was probably in California for 6 months last year. Yeah, so that started with the Super Bowl, the one with the Rams and the I'm trying to think of the Rams.
Bengals.
Yeah, Rams and the Bengals, yes.
Yep.
The Super Bowl with the Rams and the Bengals was my first event with that company. That was January of 2020.
I lost a shit ton of money on that game.
Oh, I'm sure you did. A lot of people lost a shit ton of money on that game. Everybody thought the Bengals were going to win, and I don't know how. You got the Super Bowl in your hometown, in your house. Getting out of that stadium. I'll just say this: getting out of that stadium was an ordeal after the game. Yeah, if you know where it's at, that's Inglewood, California. Traffic jams down Century Boulevard. It was you think rush hour in LA is something you ain't seen nothing until you seen that.
A lot of people trying to get out of Inglewood in a lot of different ways. So
yeah.
I was in Vegas for the Super Bowl that year. I screwed my times up, and I was flying right in the middle of. We got there at halftime, so I missed the whole first half. We rushed to our hotel, finally found a place we could watch the game, and I got there just in time to tear up my slip.
Yeah, it happens. It happens to the best of us. But that's the big reason why I left. I think my last event was the October event there in Hagerstown with Mick Foley. But there was some other stuff going on, but it wasn't really the reason why I left. It was mainly just I wasn't going to have time to do wrestling other than my own. After November of last year. Now, in retrospect, I ended up leaving that job in May. The road got to be a little too much. Yeah. I probably would have been able to come back and do some stuff in May, but at that point in time, the relationship was already it was already soured.
So between your traveling, what soured the relationship with you and Adrenaline?
Well, it started. honestly, it started during the pandemic. Now, keep in mind the deal that we had before the pandemic, and that was the deal that we had before the pandemic was he was going to do some events here. I would at least get to do 2 of my own events in Hagerstown. That was the deal that we always had. I remember the first event we did, I think it was 2016 over at G Boone's when that was still open. We did that fight championship tournament. I don't know who remembers that, if anybody remembers that. But it drew okay. It didn't draw what I think it was going to draw, but we did that show. And I decided, we're going to take this to West Virginia for a little bit. And then about a year later, we were going to come back to Hagerstown and try to do like a mega event. So I stuck to my end of the deal the entire time. We came back, we did the mega event with Fight, had Eli Drake, who's now LA Knight, had him on the top of the bill against Ricky Reyes. Fantastic match. Fantastic card all around, but the financials got so out of control there towards the end. And especially like I had just gotten married and my wife had just found out how much I was spending on wrestling shows. So so you're starting to get the questions of like, oh, how much does all this cost to get put together? And it's just like, oh, well, this is the vacation.
Wait a minute, Mike. How did she not know this ahead of time? Did you just take the stamp off and marry her? How'd that work?
No. She had been around me long enough because we were together for 2.5 years before all this, so she was around long enough to know. But I don't think she knew exactly how much I was putting into that particular show. Sure. Yeah. So when you sit there and you're calculating up figures and it's like, this is how much it costs. She's just like, hey, maybe you should rethink this. And like I did, and I came to the rational conclusion is like, you know what, I'm going to take a break from wrestling for a while. Me and my partners at the time said, hey, the show was great, but we needed to shut this thing down. Because all of us were moving in separate directions of our lives, and that's what we did. So had that good draw towards the end. We did build a fan following, no doubt about it. But had that really good draw at the end. Closed up shop. I ended up selling the promotion to Ernie Osiris up in Jersey, who's doing a great job with it. But that was pretty much the end of my promoting for a little bit. Most people know I went through a divorce after that, not too long after that, and basically didn't start promoting again until the pandemic. So
I didn't know your personal. I don't know questions like that. So
there's a lot of people.
Sorry about that.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. We're all better and doing well now. But
good. Now she's promoting her own wrestling. Is that what you're telling me? She's got her own promotion?
No, she does not have her own promotion.
Okay.
I think she promotes. I don't know what she's doing now. I think she promotes theater or something. Or she works in the theater community or something now. But
gotcha.
Pandemic rolls around, and I'm starting to get the itch again because I've been, haven't been doing anything for about a year and or year two really, and it's like once this all closes down, it's kind of made me put in perspective like how much I actually love going out and doing events and promoting events. So I was in a podcast studio with one of my partners, Jay Heisch, that runs Venue Media. And I had been just thinking of this concept for a promotion. And he was just like, well, how would you run it? I was like, well, we need to build hype for it. I'd start a podcast first. We'd start a podcast. We'd build hype for,
what was that podcast called?
The Podcast Pit.
It was my favorite podcast to listen to on the way home from work every Saturday.
You'd be surprised how many. I'm honestly surprised how many people tell me that they miss the Podcast Pit.
Yeah.
So, we started the Podcast Pit. We started promoting like, hey, we've got this concept for promotion, Voltage Wrestling. We're going to do our first show here soon. And initially, I can tell you, it was not well received by the wrestling community. Like, I know a lot of people were not happy that I was gonna like.
Why is that?
No, because everybody had the same concerns that we're going to dive into here later. Everybody had the same concerns. Like I remember, like initially WWA was not happy about it. Me and Andre had a big, we had a little small fall. It was a big falling out, but it was, I mean, in retrospect, it was small, like after looking back at it. But we had fallen out about it. We started not talking as much as we used to anymore. And then the first show rolls around. We're both running on the same day as each other, and we both had good draws. So at that point in time, like I think I drew really well. I knew he drew really well, and we both afterwards we sat down and talked. And I was like, "Did you do well?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "I did well." "Yeah, you did." "What are we fighting about?"
Right.
And that's kind of like you have no idea how like that night kind of mended a lot of fences with everybody. However, as I mean, we're not doing a podcast to talk about fences mended. I mean, not everybody was too happy to see me running.
So you used the podcast pit as a vehicle to get voltage wrestling out there. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a vehicle to get voltage wrestling out there. And I mean, it worked. It worked really well. Like the promotion was getting a lot of play at the time. Like we were, I'm talking, we were averaging probably 2 or 3 ticket sales a day for 2 months.
I'm confused. Why? First off, I know people are never happy when a new promotion comes to town.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say that you were a new promotion. You were an old promotion that just changed your name. So I don't even think that's like the same thing because you're a known guy in this community.
Yeah, I am.
So why do people get so worked up when another wrestling entity comes to town?
Dude, I don't know how it is with anybody else, but man, like I've seen people get like super worked up when I start running again, and like I don't get it. Like, dude, I'll see guys like hell, there's 3 other promotions in that area. I didn't hear a bad thing from most of them, and even the one like I don't even consider like the little tiff I had with WWA. I don't even consider like they weren't like slinging mud at us or anything. Right. It was just we were both in our egos a little bit. But like it seemed like just from the outside of the area, everybody was just kind of like upset. Like it was always the usual suspects. There's always like 2 or 3 promoters, and I'm not going to mention them by name, but
sure,
for two promoters
it.
that are always just like, oh well, Mike doesn't know how to draw money, or Mike can't sell tickets to save his life, and it's just like, dude, have you seen any of them?
Well, I tell you that, and you would know this better than anybody. I don't know what it is about promoters or I don't hear it I hear it from wrestlers sometimes, but man, they will shit all over everybody in the area. They would just tear them completely apart. I've heard other promoters say it. I've heard promoters say it about promoters I've worked with.
Oh yeah.
There's no love for anybody, and that's what I'll never understand. I get it. We're all out here to try to make a buck or two, and that's about what you're making, a buck or two.
Yeah.
So I don't know why it's such a big deal.
Nobody's getting.
I get it. We could be oversaturated.
Nobody's getting rich off of this shit. I'm going to tell you that right now. Nobody's getting rich off of this. And I mean, there are some promoters that are making some decent money, which we'll get into. But nobody's getting rich.
But is that you think more? I mean, Jason just mentioned it. The oversaturation. Is it when a new promotion starts up, or even an old promotion, an old promotion comes back? Is it like everyone's concerned, even though, yes, oversaturation can be bad, but the amount of like, hey, this guy's our ticket sales, or is that?
Yeah, I know where you're going with that, and I say like I know that's what's in everybody's head, but like I'll explain it to you like this. I look at this. We're all in the sales business, and in sales, you need to get leads for more sales. Wouldn't it help if there's another promotion in the area that's creating awareness of the indie wrestling scene? Because you're going to meet people at shows that go to all 3 or all 4 events in your area, and they're like, "Oh, have you been to this?" Like they're going to talk to new fans. Have you been to this one? Have you been to this one? And it's going to end up benefiting all of us in the long run.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. We have not even begun to scratch the surface of how many wrestling fans are in the area, and I can put this out. I kind of came to this realization in 2019 when we were doing stuff with Big Time Wrestling when I was still with ACW. We put 1,500 people in a high school gymnasium in Hagerstown, Maryland.
South High.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people.
So that tells you right there, there's at least 1,500 wrestling fans within a 30-mile radius of South Hagerstown High School.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any of the, I can tell you this right now, in a month, you can calculate up Voltage, WDWA, ATCW. I know Pay Your Dues runs out in like Ranson. You can calculate up their attendance. None of us have even begun to scratch 1,500 people combined.
Mm-hmm.
That's combined attendance.
Yeah.
So think about that. Like, we're still not reaching all of the wrestling fans that we could possibly reach. So there should be no problem right now with other people coming. Like, there shouldn't be any problem with, say, another person running in the area, like, because you're still not scratching the surface of how many wrestling fans you can reach. It's just not happening.
Yeah, even 1,500 is super low.
It is.
Can you imagine like that Big Time show? And that usually has some stars on it, right? Who was on that show? Angle, was he on that show?
That wasn't Angle. No, I'm talking. This is 2019, so this was like 2018 or 2019. So this would have been like Bret Hart. This would have been Bret Hart, Scott Steiner, Jeff Jarrett, maybe. Like I remember, like as far as the indie guys, like I know Big Cass was on one of them. Working Corey Bush. You had a Neon Ninja Facade. I mean, there was a lot of like it was all the like top talent in the area. Oh
yeah, 1,500 is like is nothing. Like that show with Bret Hart on it alone should have drew 5.
Well,
accidentally. I mean, it's Bret Hart.
Well, yeah, no, and here's the thing: like that Bret Hart line was long. Like it was like from the back of the gym to the door, out the door, down towards the main entrance of the school, and almost down to Potomac Street. Like that line was long.
Yeah.
I've never seen a line for an autograph that long. I mean, they had to delay the show because the autograph line was just so long.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, dude, I can tell you this right now. Whatever they paid Bret, he earned it. Because I mean, signing autographs. I mean, if you're sitting in a chair for an hour or two is one thing, but sitting in a chair for damn near 3 hours signing autographs is, I mean, that's a hell of an ask for an A-list talent.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So you start Voltage Wrestling. You're in the Martinsburg area. What was your first show? What was your first show like?
Okay, so the first show, so we originally had the Sandman booked for the first show. Sandman, long story short, there's a bunch of stuff that went back and forth. The Sandman ended up going into rehab. So I ended up booking Rhino for the show in his place. Cost me a couple more bucks than I would have liked to have spent, but I wanted to make sure that the fans got their money's worth because it was our first show, and it's like you only get one first show. That's the way it is. So, like, you only get one. You can't ever take it back, and that's going to set the tone of how your promotion is going to be. But the big thing. So I'm going to let you in on a little inside baseball. Do you know who our first champion was?
I do not.
Okay, so our first champion was Sickened.
Oh, okay.
So our first champion was Sickened. That was not supposed to happen.
Oh, okay. Well, who botched what?
So here's the inside baseball. So basically, the show we were going to do a tournament. 3 days before the show, I realized we weren't going to be able to do a full 3-round tournament because how hot it was outside. Like, I mean, I think it was like 96 degrees out that day. I know I couldn't ask wrestlers to wrestle 3 times in that kind of heat, especially with the humidity. And then you're dealing with cicadas at the same time. And it's like it was right out of COVID, so we were doing an outdoor event to make sure people felt safe.
Sure.
So we took it down to it was going to be, we start out with the first round. We put them in a 4-way match. It'll be an elimination style, winner takes all. We had Ben Bishop, Corey Bush, the Savage Gentleman Victor Benjamin, and Sicken in the match. Now, Sicken, he told me before this all started, he's like, dude, he's like, I got to do tags. He's like, because I'm a little beat up right now. He's like, I kind of want to do tags. I've been focusing on Riot City's Most Wanted. And, he was renting me the ring, and he's doing me a solid there. Basically, I was going to take care of him. So we were going to eventually go to do the tag team thing after this first show. Well, as it turns out, about the Friday before the show, I'm on the phone, coming back from work. I'm on the phone with Jimmy. And he's like, oh, well, who are you going to have for your first champion? So I basically said, you know what? The biggest guy in the match has got to go over. I mean, it's got to be Ben Bishop, Like, Ben's probably, like, dude's 7 foot tall. Like, who's going to believe anything?
Where's Ben? Where's Ben now?
Oh, Ben's in Georgia. Ben,
okay.
Really,
did he wrestle MLW?
Yeah, really, Ben's all over the place now. Ben's one of those guys. He was a college basketball player. He got in, and he saw this for what it was, and he was in here for one reason and one reason only, and that's to get a job. When you get a collegiate athlete in the indie wrestling, they're not going to want to stick around it a long time. They're going to want to, do what they got to do to get to where they got to go. And that dude, I'll tell you this right now, that dude puts in work. And does the drives, goes wherever he can to, take part in a show. I know during the pandemic, he was one of the regulars going down to Tennessee and working. Which helped him kind of get out of that Maryland bubble a little bit. So he was working all over the place rather than just one area. So yeah, Ben's he's going to be doing some stuff here soon. I think so. I mean, he's already got Barstool Sports on his side. Like, he's down there in Georgia, mixing it up with the right people. Like, he's going to be fine.
Right.
But I had mentioned that Jimmy Ben was going to be our first champion. He's like, oh, well, I got kind of plans for Ben. I was just like, yeah, I know. I was like, but that's what I'm doing down here is not going to disrupt what you're doing. Like, he's going to be a focal part of the show. And to be honest, we're not as big of a promotion as you because we've only had one show. So it's not really going to make any difference. So Saturday rolls around. I'm in the locker room meeting. I basically tell everybody what's going down. Hey, Ben's going over for the belt at the end of the show. Everybody's happy with it. Apparently, during the show, Nick gets a text. Sicken. Who's going over? It was from Jimmy. Who's going over in the main event? Ben.
When he say Jimmy, he means James Ellsworth.
Yes.
Okay.
So, Ellsworth calls. Oh, who's going over to the main event? Ben. Oh, what the fuck? I thought Radick was a brother. I can't believe he's doing this to me. It should have never happened like this. And he's like, why? Like, even Nick's is like confused. Why are you mad? It's just like this doesn't bother you. Like, this isn't going to hurt your business. And he's just going on this rant. So he goes on the rant to Nick. Apparently, he's texting Ben. He's texting Nick back and forth. He's texting Ben. Like, he starts texting some of the other Riot City guys. Like, this should have never happened. And we get halfway through the show, and like everybody was still going to do the finish. But we get
now. Wait a minute before we get to the end of the show here. And we all know Sicken, whatever. But why was this such a problem that Ellsworth? Why did he have such a problem with this?
Apparently, I found he wanted to be the first one to put the belt on the guy. Because it was like his, like, I guess it was his kid, and he wanted to basically take him, like, I want you to also think about this, too. There's a lot of stuff going on at the time. Ben was a regular on Barstool Sports. A regular. Like he'd be on Brandon Walker's podcast, like, on a pretty consistent basis. Had the pandemic, like, had they not locked everything down again in late 2020, and we had our original show in August of 2020, Brandon Walker probably would have been at the show. So I think he was in retrospect, I think he was looking at it like, oh, well, they're going to get this before I do, and I don't want that.
So he was looking at an opportunity to deal with probably bigger and better things than just Ben Bishop.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, I don't even think it was that. I just think he just wanted to be the first one to do it. I was just like, why does that matter? Like, this is a promotion in fucking Martinsburg, West Virginia. Like, we're not making any noise yet. I mean, we've had one good show, but we're not making any noise yet.
Right.
It shouldn't have been a problem. So, long story short, halfway through the show, everybody's like, "We got to change this finish because he's really mad." And I was like, "Why is he this fucking mad? He's not even called me yet," which is a big red flag. But I was basically just like, "Dude, like, fuck it, I'm changing the show." I probably shouldn't have. I probably shouldn't have in retrospect. I probably should have gone with my original finish, but I was trying to keep peace, and that was very important to me at the time because at the end of the day, he is a friend, or he was a friend, and we lost sound.
No, you're good. I hear you.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay. No,
Yeah,
so,
I just cut it to you. I just cut it to you.
Oh, okay. No, so yeah, like we changed the finish. The people that I'm working with, like the people that are helping me run the promotion, they're all pissed about it, and rightfully so. But I called Jimmy up the next day and I was like, "Was that even necessary? You couldn't even have just texted me." He's like, "Well, I thought I told you the day before," and I was just like, "You didn't. You beat around the bush. Like, if you don't want me to do something, just directly tell me if it's going to be that much of a problem and tell me why. But don't beat around the bush and then start harassing harassing people the next day about a finish that doesn't involve you. You're not even at the show. Like, you basically just booked the end of my show." He's like, "Oh, well, it is what it is. You don't have to like the way I do things, but it's the way I do things." Basically, no apology. But he's just like, like.
Well, narcissists never apologize for them.
Well, no, and that's exactly right. Like, I mean, that's a first red flag right there. But, I also tell him, I'm just like, "Look, I am planning on running the Hagerstown show." He's like, "Well, you shouldn't do that because that's my town. That's my town. You shouldn't run in my town. You shouldn't run in somebody else's town." I was like, "That's not straight up." I was just like, "That's not your town. That's our town. We've had this deal from the very beginning. Like, I don't understand why you would think that it's changed, but like, this has been the deal since the very beginning. I help you get buildings in Hagerstown, which up until he got that Legion in Funkstown, I was responsible for getting him every building he had in this town, every last one. From I got in the Academy Theater, he got us kicked out of there. Almost got us kicked out of the Elks Lodge. Then we get into South High, and the Board of Education starts kind of being hard to deal with. And I wonder why, because, right around that same time, he had his allegations.
Sure.
So, yeah. So, he had his allegations.
If I may ask, why did he almost get you kicked out of 2 venues?
The first venue, I kept saying it was very important that we make sure that the place is clean at the end and that we do not touch the sound equipment that was there for the church. Okay. So the Abundant Life Tabernacle was running in the Academy Theater. They own the building now.
Yeah, okay.
But before they owned the building, it was owned by a contractor, and we basically rented the building from them.
Yeah.
We go in, we do the show, and then before the show, they kept saying, "Oh, we don't need a sound guy. We got sound up there. Mike, go do sound." I was like, "I'm not touching the sound system. That's not our sound system. We were told not to touch it."
Yep.
So I had a friend by the name of Bobby Hayes that came and did our sound. And Jimmy's all him-hawing and pissed off about that he had to pay for a sound guy when we had sound equipment here. And I was just like, "Dude, it's just the way that was the rules the venue laid down, straight up." So he had a couple of other people try to go up there and operate the sound system before Bobby got there, and I finally was just like, "No," and I straight up just locked the door. And I was the only one that had a key to the door, so there was that. But following the event, I guess the pastor from the church had came in there to get something and saw that we were setting up a wrestling ring. Saw that somebody was up there messing with the sound equipment, and also saw cigarette butts in the parking lot, which it's downtown Hagerstown. There's not really much you could do there. But then walked up to they had this podium that they preached from, and there was a drop of Gatorade on the podium, and that they basically told the contractor, they were like, if that wrestling promotion comes back, we're not going to run our church services here, which made no sense. Like, they had nowhere else to go. But contractor kicked us out. And luckily, at the time, my ex-wife's grandfather was on the board over at the Elks. And I had made a call over there. Like, he had ended up getting me in there. And, we set up well, it was a pretty good deal for a venue. We ended up getting the entire room back there, which if you've ever been to the Elks Lodge, that room's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
ceilings are
one thing
decent too. The ceilings aren't ridiculous. Like a lot of times when you try to get into a venue, the ceilings are never high enough.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. It's never gonna. It's just the way it is
Right.
with indie wrestling venues. But we go into that second building, and one thing I said is like, hey, if you're coming down here to flyer, you need to put flyers in the building. Just make an appointment with them. He's like, oh, I don't need to do that. We'll just come down and put them in there. I was like, Jimmy, it's very important to make an appointment with them because there's not always people there. So he shows up unannounced, calls me over there. And it's like, why did you show up unannounced? I was like, I told you, just make an appointment. So he shows up unannounced. There's like an old lady that's working the office there. And, he goes in and says, hey, can we put up posters? And she was nice about it. She's like, yeah, you can put up posters. And then the poster that gets put up, it's like, it's got Kindred and Gangrel on it. It's got this big red background, this really demonic font. And you know how conservative old people are sometimes.
Right.
It's like they're gonna yeah, you're going to see this demonic font and this like demonic poster, and they're going to be like, what are we bringing in here? So, yeah, how do we sound now? Yeah,
we are getting a little bit of chop here.
We're still there.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of.
Yeah,
Right now?
Yeah, we're getting a little chop here.
you might have to exit out.
Yeah. Here's what we're gonna do. We're going to cut this short right now. There will be a part 2 to this. We'll let Mike reset his stuff on his end, and then we'll resume here shortly with part 2 of why Mike Radick left Adrenaline Championship Wrestling and started his own promotion. So stay tuned, and we'll be back shortly.